Hi, everyone. It is my real joy and pleasure to be with my wonderful friend, Kelly Hunter, again. We've had several conversations. Kelly is an astrologer I hugely respect with all her work. She's a PhD. She's an internationally known depth astrologer and astromythologist. She's an author, a feature writer, teacher, international speaker. She's particularly focused on the divine feminine. She's written a book about the four different Liliths. But it was Kelly who in 2020, I heard one of your presentations, Kelly, as you know, and I was just electrified. You were talking about the dwarf planets, the Kuiper belt objects, and I was absolutely electrified. And I knew that I had to follow in your path and study them, because they really do represent a high level of consciousness for us, a high octave of consciousness for us. So I always love the discussions we have, and I know you've got a lot to say today, bringing in the dwarf planets in terms of where we are now headed. And I think you'd like to start, Kelly, with the new moon in Scorpio.
Yeah, I think if we focus on the coming new moon, it gives us something to look at and kind of see where we're at. You know, we're in that window for sure. And I'm so glad that you got into this too, Pam. It gives me somebody to talk about on a level that we can really get into good conversations. And we have, you know, insights that we both bring from the research we've been doing.
Yeah.
I want to bring in a couple that are not as well known or integrated often. So let me, first of all, and some people may be totally new to this, so I'm just going to back up and give a little bit of a kind of intro with that. So do you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So this is basically the expanding solar system, and it keeps expanding, but this is basically the band of the Kuiper belt, which I think of as a far out asteroid belt, you know, because there are these two realms that where there are a lot of objects and a lot of different archetypes kind of activating and inviting us. And this one is of a different order. If we have the personal planets, then we have the asteroid belt. Then we have, as I think of it as like a river with all these rocks in it, and we have to like jump across the river using the rocks, and we get to Jupiter and Saturn, the social planets, and then we're in the collective consciousness planets. That would be Uranus and Neptune, that are sort of generational. And then Pluto has become, you know, an interface between the collective consciousness planets and the Kuiper belt. So this is kind of just a selection of the Kuiper belt objects that I've been working with. Yeah. And so I consider them a different realm of consciousness. And I know you do too. And that's what we're kind of figuring out. What kind of level is that, if most of these are named for creator gods? So here I think of them as quantum, the quantum Kuiper belt. Sounds really good. And it's also an aspect of science that is developing. Yeah. You know, there's more talk about quantum realm and quantum this and quantum that. And I'm giving here a couple of quotes that I think really express this level. This is from Deepak Chopra, a well-known teacher. Beyond the visible garment of the universe, beyond the mirage of molecules, the Maya of physicality, lies an inherently invisible, seamless matrix made up of nothingness. This invisible nothing silently orchestrates, instructs, guides, governs, and compels nature to express itself with infinite creativity, infinite abundance, and unfaltering exactitude into a myriad of designs and patterns and forms. And then David Bohm, who was one of the three main people who were developing this quantum, mechanics and quantum science, along with Albert Einstein and who was and Max Planck. So he says this is an external presence of consciousness. So,
and I love David Bohm's work. I wrote about him quite a lot in my first book, because he talked a great deal about the implicate order and the explicate order. And the implicate order is really what Plato considered the realm of ideas, what we may think of as plasma or ether, or in this case, quantum consciousness. And the explicate order is where we put, as humanity, pull it down into events and experiences and reality.
Yes, and that's just what I think these Kuiper Belt objects offer, that pulling it down. And engaging in that level of consciousness more. And it was Niels Bohr also who talked about, when we observe something, our thoughts or our theories are, impressed on whatever that is, and it reflects it back. That the mere act of indirectly even observing the atomic realm changes the outcome of quantum interactions, suggesting the influence of conscious attention and intention on the manifestation of materiality.
Absolutely. In fact, I quoted Paul Levy in my last update video, and he was saying really exactly that. Exactly. The act of attention is an act of creation in itself.
Yeah. So there's also, you mentioned ether. So ether, in several philosophies, including the Greek, they call it your star body, your ether body. And in Hindu Vedic science, and also in Buddhist philosophy, they talk about ether as being the fifth element out of which all of the four come. And in Buddhism, they have the physical ether and the non-physical ether. So the ether is where the non-physical can become physical, and certainly if we give it our attention and intention. And so these creator gods and goddesses kind of do that, right? They're envisioning, and that vision comes into reality.
So this is very interesting, Kelly, isn't it? This is going to help us become masters of our mind, I think, with Pluto moving into Aquarius as well. Do you think?
Oh, that's a beautiful thought. And we want beautiful thoughts, and we have to take mastery of our minds, which have gotten way out of whack. We're not educated into the heart or into, different aspects of our intelligence. There's been an overemphasis on the mind. And that's where meditation comes in, or other practices that can help us tame that mind. And, we're really finding that we need to be coming more from the heart lately. And there's the other intelligence, which is even lower than that, or deeper than that, or another aspect of the intelligence of our body, the organic wisdom in every cell of our body. And then partly what I want to talk about today too is some old Vedic teachings that I'm tuning into now, that talk about the holy womb chakra. That's not one of the seven, but is another aspect of consciousness where our soul spark lives. And it's intimately connected to the heart. And men and women, both, we all have a womb chakra that they say carries the soul spark, carries all of our experience from all our incarnations.
Wow.
So let's start looking at the new moon with some of these things. And so we're starting with the A Grand Cross from the new moon. And one of the exciting things about this, and Haumea is not too woven into this at the moment, but that Haumea is now fully into Scorpio, is very exciting. And continues, her long-term square with Pluto, as Pluto is transitioning as well. So Haumea is the Hawaiian goddess of childbirth. So she is a goddess of the womb, that very, essence that I was just mentioning come up in Vedic teachings. And this is a very powerful place of creativity. And there she is, giving birth with a new impetus behind it now that she's in Scorpio. This is an erotic, passionate sign. Eros emerged from chaos with Gaia Earth. It's the desire to be.
And hugely regenerative, isn't she? Not only creative, but
Yes.
regenerative. And that's what's wonderful. And in Scorpio, I think of her cleaning up a lot of the toxicity on the planet. And also, and I've mentioned this previously, but I think Scorpio is a very important aspect of medicine. That sting in the scorpion's tail is the kind of diagnostic side of medicine, anything to do with injections. I was very much linking that to regenerative medicine in terms of stem cell treatments and that kind of thing.
Well, from your own experience.
Absolutely. I think she's going to be really, positively powerful in that respect. I think that's going to gallop in the period of time that her mirror is in Scorpio. It's going to be very exciting. And of course, Pluto in Aquarius squaring her. There's a lot in Aquarius to do with youth and anti-aging and longevity. That's a very productive square, isn't it?
Yeah, they were conjunct all through the 50s. So people born in very late 49 into maybe early 1960 have the conjunction of those two that went on for a good decade. And now they're in a long-term square to help us move into this new era. So Haumea is really, one of the, I think, big players and very engaging. And here she is in Scorpio now. So that is a different impulse. And so what else we're looking at here is Varuna, which is in Leo. Now, Varuna is an ancient Vedic god, said to be the god of the cosmic waters. Now, I was talking to a woman, Nubia Uttal, who studies these goddesses and does mudras. And she said, well, and one reason I love Hindu astrology is, or mythology, is because with every god, there's a goddess. So she was telling me about Varuni, the feminine aspect of Varuna, which we need to include in the whole meaning of Varuna and how we look at it. And Nubia said, this is the goddess of the cosmic water. She brought the water to this. So, there we go, to our favorite Salacia and the other, kind of water energies that we've been finding, and Varuna and Varuni. Now, Varuna is also maintains cosmic order and universal law. And we sure need that. So that's coming in through Varuna and Varuni.
And it's so interesting, isn't it, Kelly, that so many of these dwarf planets have this moral compass. This part of their archetype as being you must not violate sacred or divine law. If we look at Orcus too, that's saying something very similar, isn't it? So there's a real resonance of we need to come back to right relationship with nature and stop the exploitation. And I think where we're headed actually has great promise for that.
Yeah, Varuna actually went on a sabbatical for a while. When there's a story about Varuna, and let me show you a picture. Do I have that picture available? There he is. There's Varuna, and so Vedic god of waters, cosmic order, and divine law. Now, one of the ways that we can connect to these Kuiper Belt objects is to know where they were when we were born. And I always like to say there's a couple of special personal touches that you can connect to it. So partly I've been finding a lot of people who are, say, like yoga teachers or into Vedic philosophy, and that includes astrology. Now, I've just started looking at charts in this way to see how strong Varuna is. in those charts, and I've been finding that they are really strong. Varuna is really strong in charts of people who have that interest in that culture and in that philosophy. So if you do, or if you're getting a transit, you might become interested in that.
Yeah.
Which is, part of what just happened for me. As Varuna was partly the catalyst here of my interest in ancient Vedic teachings.
Wow.
And I have trouble mixing my astrologies, but I am interested in certain aspects of Vedic astrology, particularly the moon mansions, where the moon is each night on its 27 to 28, day cycle, and how the moon mansion is more specifically personal to you and can be the most important thing in your whole entire chart. It's a whole nother, roster of mini signs, So anyway, so Varuna, also the day anything is discovered. So if your birthday's on November 28th, which is coming right up, you might have a special connection to Varuna too.
Yes, yes, of course. Absolutely.
So I'm just inviting people to become interested, because it's a little overwhelming to have this whole bunch of new things on top of the asteroids and the centaurs and everything. So but they're offering another, higher invitation in a way that is almost necessary as we enter this new era.
And it's so interesting, Kelly. I've been discovering a lot about water myself through the work of Veda Austin, went to see her in Glastonbury recently, and Randy Hatton and his wonderful work. But Veda is now really starting to see water as God consciousness.
Oh, beautiful.
We are filled with
Yes.
God because we're made of water. We're liquid crystals filled
Yes.
with God
Yes.
consciousness. And if we
Yes.
become more aware of how we respect water, treat water, send intention and love to water, that will affect every cell of our body. And that's what we're going to beam out as frequency. There's a whole, continuous feedback loop, which is something I think very beautiful. And a lot of the water on the earth is as old as 4 billion years old. It comes from the ice crystals in the interstellar dust, and of course we've still yet to really discover the primary water that's completely pure underneath the mantle of the earth, and that there's more of that than in all of the oceans of the world. So I think we are just really on the edge of finding so much more about water that's actually going to help our consciousness moving forwards as well.
Yes, and we're dealing with a lot of polluted water. We really need, that's part of our healing process,
Yeah,
is finding water that has salt in it, that adds electricity, that is more pure and not filled with fluoride or whatever other chemicals get in there these days. So we are, a lot of people are paying attention to the water they're drinking and using filters and such like that. So living water, we want the living waters. Yeah.
beautiful.
So Varuna, yeah, in Leo. So if you're having this transit, pay attention. And there might be some things from Hindu philosophy or Vedic that could be very useful to you. You might want to have a Vedic reading, which gives a different perspective. It's a whole different system. So, and you see how active it is during this moon cycle here. It's squaring Jupiter, which in Hindu philosophy, they call Jupiter Guru, because Jupiter is the teacher. Right. And there it is in Taurus, and we are learning from the earth. And we've been so excited for several years now to have Uranus in Taurus as well. And there's this Jupiter, so it's the wisdom of the earth and nature and our bodies and our embodiment. And let me bring attention also to this is the black moon, Lilith. This is the true black moon. The way we measure the movement of the black moon is can be the mean average motion forward through the zodiac. This also happens with the nodes of the moon. And then we can look for the true, because it goes retrograde a lot. And so the true black moon can be up to 30 degrees different than the mean black moon. So this is a mathematical point that's connected to the Earth moon orbit. So if we go back to talking about the Haumea and her womb energy, the moon is the mother's womb that gives birth to us, gives us our incarnation. And if the black moon, it's not a moon, it's not a body, it's a mathematical point intimately connected to the Earth moon orbit. And I've been talking about it and thinking about it as the desire to be.
Oh, beautiful, especially in Leo. Beautiful. Because just to say, Kelly is quite an expert on Lilith, the four Liliths, and hence
No expert, Pam.
well, you're ahead of the pack, I think, ahead of the average bear with Lilith, because there's a lot to it, isn't there? And Kelly's even been teaching me a little more about it.
There is, and these womb teachings have also really started to resonate with the black moon for me. That it's like the cosmic womb, the womb of the divine mother, that is the truest, kind of energy of incarnation.
Yeah.
And that there are these very deep teachings about the holy womb chakra. And I came across it through the work of Anne Bromley, who is an English woman who teaches beautiful, beautiful depth on awakening the sacred womb and the quality of that consciousness being in where we sit in a deeper place in ourselves.
Yeah.
And that has to do with embodiment. And it is that, like, connected to the galactic center, the heart of the Milky Way galaxy, or the womb of the Milky Way galaxy, where all potentials are possible. So we're having this energy squaring Uranus pretty closely on this moon. And the black moon, both the mean, which has moved into Virgo basically, and the true were accompanying Venus on her retrograde cycle this summer, which brought that cycle even deeper than usual. If the goddess is going to the underworld and she's calling us into our hearts, especially in Leo, but I think that's what Venus retrograde does anyway, that when the black moon is there, it goes to a deeper place that is down to that soul place, connecting heart and soul. And so that, to me, it was a more powerful passage even than usual.
Yeah.
And we need to go that deep. We need to go that deep. But it also reveals, like, she'll bust our ego. If we're coming from ego, the black moon will totally bust us.
And isn't that interesting in Leo, thinking about the ego side? And it's very interesting in that sort of exact square by degree with Uranus, because I also think of black moon Lilith as being a strong symbol for sovereignty as well.
Absolutely.
And Uranus is
especially in Leo too, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and she changes quality, I think, when moving into Virgo, but squaring from Leo there, she's really bringing up the activism, the individualism, the rebel, the breaking new ground, the challenge to the patriarchy, the rules.
Well, I'm not sure how. I think that's more of an asteroid Lilith activation. To me, the black moon, and yeah, some people see the connection between Eris and black moon Lilith.
Yes,
but this is more like the heart and soul connection that is about our spiritual essence, not so much about activism.
Right, that's really interesting.
Yeah, because there are other Liliths. There's the asteroid that I think is definitely activist. There's the potential dark moon that might be another moon that orbits the Earth. Like, is it really there? Did it used to be there? Now it's not there. Is it on the astral level? Like, and that has a lot of deep esoteric nuances to it. And then there's the star Algol, the demon, the eye of Medusa, that has been called Lilith. So, that's what I write about in my Living Lilith book. When they all started coming to me, it's like, well, how many Liliths are there?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the many faces of the goddess in a certain way. But that soul connection, that heart and womb connection, is feeling very potent to me, and goes along with Haumea too.
Well, it's
So
rebirth energy in a big way. So thinking about New Earth, this is very strong rebirth symbolism, isn't it?
yeah, it's going to that deepest place in us that we all don't always tap into, but the soul can go pretty, in our consciousness, if we can get out of the mind and into the heart, and if we can get like out of the ego and our false sense of self, something from our deeper essence that is more sovereign, is more creative, and is our true essence, that it's not about your life purpose, although it can fuel your life purpose, but it's about the essence of who you are, and how you be. And that's especially in Leo. That's like going back to the Chopra quote about the essence and creating, and whatever he said about the different aspects of how nature manifests itself. And in fact, in the Vedic teachings, they call goddess nature. It's like nature is that matrix, is that's the essential, kind of source of creativity and power.
And what I love is that Chariklo is part of that fixed grand cross, because she is just sitting there silently, isn't she? The eternal Buddhist presence, the stillness, the state of being, the soul midwife to help this shift in consciousness that we're going through right now. And it also suggests to me that our healing capacity is going to be expanded greatly as we move forwards, with Jupiter square to Chariklo, also Haumea essentially square to Chariklo too. There's a great sense of we are going to kind of turn a lot of things around in terms of toxicity and sickness, and so I think this has a lot of promise, this fixed grand square as well.
Oh yes, her name has to do with graceful spinner.
Yeah.
And when I remembered that today, I thought of the whirlpools in the water. I thought of structured water, how that happens, and the way the waters hold that energy. There she's the pristine waters, in a kind of way. And that she holds space. She's holding space for the best potential to come forward. With a great deal of gentleness and kindness and love. And that's a beautiful energy. I've just become more aware of well, Melanie Reinhardt has done quite a lot with Chariklo, and also David Leskovitz, who I wasn't aware of before, but he's doing quite a lot of work with the centaurs as well, and with this one. Especially, he's relating it to our personal space, how we hold that, how we define that, how we fill that, and our subtle bodies, and how we it's about bestowing that grace. Grace is a beautiful word for her.
It's a beautiful word. And also I love Chariklo representing love as a state of being.
Oh, yeah.
The highest vibration as a state of being, which you continually broadcast to the world. And even if you're passing people on the street or in a shop, your state of being will ripple out and affect them. And it's just a beautiful archetype, I think.
Yeah, and the square to Jupiter is so close.
Yeah.
And so here's part of the potential of this moon, and the capacity for transformation is that kindness, and, meeting people with a good, hearty hello and
big smile.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really, really beautiful. how we encounter another person from our personal space to their personal space
And how we
with
can help to
respect and
shift their
love.
energy as well.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
It's
So yeah, this is an interesting grand cross to talk about because of these different nuances. The Kuiper Belt object. I'm setting aside Haumea a little bit because she's entering, but the other part of it is really, really close, and Jupiter planet, and then Chariklo, a centaur object that is about different states of consciousness and moving from one of those states to another. So yeah, remembering that we're still doing some letting go with that south node Haumea connection still vibrating.
And it's interesting as well, Kelly, I think it's almost an exact trine from Salacia, at sort of eight of Aries to Varuna too.
Yes. Oh, that's true. I didn't add that one in.
So she's obviously so connected. She's mermaid energy, connected to the waters, etc. It's interesting. I haven't shared this with anyone yet, and I must get round to doing a short video. But after my interview with Veda Austin, she very kindly offered to do me a water crystal. And she said, what would you like? And I wanted to do something that she may not have any awareness of, because that was such a, she's always trying to find ways to test water that she can't influence. So I said, well, have you heard me talk about Salacia? And she said, no, never. I thought, well, that's a great one. So she just put the word Salacia on a piece of paper, put it under the petri dish for 30 seconds, and then froze the water crystal. And what she got was, she has this language of hydroglyphs, water vocabulary. She has to test a water crystal at least 50 times to get the same crystal, essentially. And that becomes her water vocabulary. And she said the two forms of the crystal that are really coming forwards are salt and electricity. And she had no idea at all what Salacia meant, which of course is saltwater maiden. And as you know, Kelly, you can only get electricity where the water has salt in it. You can't get it from distilled water. And there's one whole theory of life that it began on the seashore with the repeating sort of in and out of the tide that sort of electrically charged the water to start to form into life. And so there's something very fascinating here about salt, structured water, and so I could do a whole video on that, but I haven't shared that with anyone yet. But it's so interesting; it's coming up.
Oh, that is just beautiful.
Trying to Varuna, cosmic waters. So there's something very deep, excusing the pun, in all of this this area of water.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because on the new moon, Salacia is at 8 degrees 2 minutes of Aries. Right. So she's very tuned in. And then we can add in the Mercury in early Sag and get a grand trine. And I have another one for us too. So I want to make sure everybody got their Varuna sign, looking at that little ephemeris there. And Varuna can uses the stars as eyes to see what's going on all over the world. The night has 1,000 eyes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So here is another fire triangle. So we had the one with Salacia, Mercury, and Varuna that you just found. And here we go with another one. And I am excited to introduce this Kuiper Belt object named Promzus, that is in Leo, very close to that true black moon. Right. And so when Venus went retrograde, it was circling with the black moon. It was circling Promzus, so activating it and bringing out the love. Yeah. So Promzus was, I hadn't even heard of it, and I was just getting my list together of all the ones I wanted to research, and I got the Galactic Astrologer newsletter from Philip Sedgwick, who's been tracking these Kuiper Belt objects, and he put out, they just named one, and they named it Pramzus, that was a Lithuanian god of peace and friendship. So I had to include that. And so Pramzus, so I was, this is one of my Kuiper Belt adventure stories, when I was starting to work on a sketch for my Planetary Gods and Goddesses coloring book, and working with imagery that I found to do with this Lithuanian god that there wasn't much online. So I had to kind of look more to the culture. And I saw a picture of a beautiful field with a fire in the middle and these women in concentric circles kind of dancing around it. And so that got into my piece of art about evoking Pramzus. And I was heading down to the Virgin Islands, so I brought my Pramzus file with me, and I ended up the second day I was there going to a celebration on Peace Hill with a lot of my friends. And then there was a full moon circle at this woman's house whose heritage is Lithuanian. Her great uncle wrote the national anthem from Lithuania. And we were having this fire circle at her house. So yeah, it was really reverberating. And it brought alive that Pramzus energy. And I asked her, like,
Sorry, go ahead, Kelly. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, one more little part to that story is, that's a funny word, Pramzus. Like, how do you pronounce it? So I said, do you know? And she said, no, but I'll ask my cousin. So she emailed her cousin in Lithuania, and it's pronounced like Pramzus or Zus. But, it probably has some special quality in there, but Pramzus. So
wonderful synchronicity. And isn't it beautiful that it's trying to the North Node, our collective path of soul's growth, but also it sort of has echoes of Kwawa as well, doesn't it? Because Kwawa is about coming together in song and dance and joy and connecting spirit to raise the frequency before you set intention and manifest. So it has some echo, we're back to community, aren't we? And
yes, definitely community.
Community energy, I think, is so strong with
yes
as well.
Yes, this is part of that. And there are kind of themes that certain ones, like there are several light bringers. Varda, Selassie are light bringers, and there's probably more if I think about it. And Varuna, some of the oldest ceremonies in the world are fire ceremonies.
Yeah.
And that's a very prevalent thing in Vedic, culture, or Hindu culture. They do a lot of fire ceremonies.
Yeah.
So Pramzus, the Lithuanian god of peace and friendship. And I didn't find that in any research, but that's what they list on the small database of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory under the NASA wing, is that they have, you can look up all the moons of the planets, you can look up all of the small bodies, the asteroids, the centaurs, the Kuiper Belt objects, and get a lot of information about where they were discovered, when, by whom, the name, what that name means. So that's what it said on that site, is the god of peace and friendship. So let's see. Pramzus is the oldest and highest Lithuanian god related to the creation of the world.
Wow.
He is the god of the sky, peace, and friendship in Lithuanian mythology. So one of the discoverers was Lithuanian, and had the right to name this thing. So there we are.
Interesting as well that it's trying to Varda, and Varda with her husband Manwe, they were said in the creation myth to create the universe. And Varda was particularly focused on placing the sun and moon and the stars, wasn't she? She was very focused on that. So that that's a beautiful trine. I think it's so interesting that these these Kuiper Belt objects, which have an orbit of around 300 years, apart from Sedna, are coming into such precise geometry at the
Yes.
time to reinforce this whole new Earth rebirth theme that we're really all feeling. That we're
Well, that's why they're here now, and
absolutely.
and they have these resonances. So yeah, so Varda, she created the light for each new era.
Wow.
And so we're getting some new light here, and she's aligned with the galactic center at the moment.
Yep.
And she's in a square with Neptune that gives her, that spiritualizes that energy even more and brings out the best side of Neptune, and its attunement, its frequency, its subtlety. So kind of we're channeling right from the galactic center, when we're tuning into Varda at the moment.
Which is creator energy, and we're going to have that conjunction Varda galactic center and the square to Neptune all of next year as well, aren't we? As well.
Yeah, even as Neptune's getting ready to change sign, almost does it next summer. It gets up to 2959 Pisces.
That's going to be fascinating. The very last minute of the zodiac. That's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how that manifests.
Yes. Yeah. And then it goes into Aries to join Manwe. That's the consort of Varda, and was another one of the high archangels in Tolkien's mythology, creation mythology. Yeah. So that's really exciting. Neptune is keeping good company. And it also relates to Quawar some, because in Tolkien's story, which is given in the Silmarillion that was published after he died, the creator had a thought, and the thought became a circle of angels. Wow. And they began to sing one by one, and then all of them, and then there was this choir of angels, and it stimulated that mind of the creator to create a world, a vision, a world. And the 14 got so excited and wanted to go down there, and they had to create it. That's like, okay, I guess we have to create that vision. So that they're incredible creative energies, with all of the Kuiper Belt objects, and no wonder they put this, kind of mythology of Tolkien in there. He was certainly a visionary.
It's beautiful because Neptune conjunct Manwe right at the start of the zodiac, the world axis, sort of 0 degrees of Aries, really does suggest a whole new spiritual beginning as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's another indication that we are really in a whole new era. Yeah. They say we're ending the Kali Yuga and going back to the era of light.
Yes.
And so some of these ancient Vedic teachings are also coming back from the last golden age. Yeah. And kind of helping us heal. That's part of what the Holy Womb Chakra practices and mantras are about. Mantras have, and I didn't understand this before, they have a frequency. And so they're healing frequencies that come from this like source place that are being shared. And there's the music and the articulation and the rhythm of these mantras. Really, it's like tuning forks in our bodies.
Beautiful. And that does speak to sound and frequency becoming a medicine in a bigger way, doesn't it?
Yes. I just saw a video about a study that I guess he's a music teacher and he's interested in science, and he figured out how to deliver a frequency that will bust up and dissolve cancer cells.
I wrote about that in my first book. His name is Anthony Holland. He was a music teacher at one of the London schools of music, and he discovered it was the 11th harmonic that shatters cancer cells.
Yes, right.
Now,
right.
Why aren't they using that in hospitals? I wonder.
I just saw something that said that it looked like there was an actual medbed sort of thing, a kind of, I think it's getting more activated now. I think that's kind of coming into med. Well, it's certainly time, isn't it?
Wow, how that would change the world. There's so many new healing technologies using frequency. It's just beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, look how Varda's squaring Neptune, and that music aspect, that vibrational aspect, and Pramsis with the black moon is squaring the new moon.
Yes.
So that is, and then we've got Uranus in on it. So that this is another really powerful T square that is probably has another end over there in Aquarius. But Saturn's kind of picking up on it. Maybe that's why Saturn went retrograde all the way back to 0 Pisces, because it wanted to pick up on that
Yes.
wavelength.
I just missed. Yeah.
Yeah, so but that's profound. That's the awakening that Uranus is creating in a tangible way that we're experiencing more and more.
Yeah, that's really true.
And so this new moon, I know you talked about this in your new moon video, because this is obviously such a strong new moon coming up that's world changing, and a bit probably shocking along the way. And we're seeing so many literal manifestations, with flooding and fires and all kinds of things going on in the earth energy field. So how is that Scorpio regenerative energy coming forth with Mars there? Mars is a warrior, and warriors are protect and defend. They don't always march out to war.
That's true. It's going to be very interesting. I think the exact opposition, Mars Uranus, is it the 11th?
I'm not keeping up.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's very, very potent already. So it's going to be a powerful month in many ways.
Yeah, and in the States, November 11th is Veterans Day.
Wow. So watch this space. But it's also Uranus being the planet of enlightenment that's going to be very energized by Mars. I think we could see some wonderful things as well.
Yes. And so what do you think, Pam, now that Saturn is turning forward, we're doing this on November 3rd, and that's tomorrow, right? And it went all the way back to 0.
Yeah.
It's like I'm redoing Pisces.
I'm redoing Pisces, and I think it's a lot about structured water. I think that'll be a big part of it. I think it's a lot about dissolving 3D linear time and reality. I think it's a lot about that. I think it's a lot about dissolving old traditional structures. And that, of course, reinforces Pluto moving through the last few degrees of Capricorn. I think it's a lot about us developing a stronger spiritual discipline.
Yes, and kind of keeping our energy in like a shape, being very aware of our field of energy and how coherent we are maintaining that.
I really agree. I think boundaries and integrity, particularly in the spiritual world, I think huge issues right now that are coming up very strongly for people. So it's going to be very interesting. So I think the need to protect one's own frequency and bubble, but nevertheless infecting other people with high frequency energy, we're going to become much more conscious of all of that, and absolutely living in integrity, because that's just such a powerful message. I think spiritual integrity of Saturn moving through Pisces, and Saturn is now on a run through Pisces until February 2026, when it enters Aries hand in hand with Neptune, doesn't it, at 0 of Aries.
And there's Manwë. Yeah. Manwë was the closest to the mind of God, and has those original vision, original coding that we're supposed to be living under.
Yeah, I think it's a whole new episode at that point.
Oh my gosh,
we're just setting up.
Uranus is going to change sign too. I mean, it's going to be so different.
It's remarkable that they're all changing signs, aren't they? Those outer planets, from 2023 to 26. Incredible. The energy shift is going to be enormous, plus the dwarf planets being added in there. I don't think there's been a time in history when we've gone through that. So we are the bridge builders right now, where I keep thinking of that image in what is it, where he just builds one more step at a time of the bridge. Oh, that maverick chap, can't remember his name offhand.
The Indiana Jones
Yeah,
movie.
Indiana Jones, and he
Oh,
get
okay.
across the canyon, but he can only build one step of the bridge at a time. I think that's what we're doing right now.
Well, that's the faith we need with that Pisces energy.
Yeah,
So I want to share a couple of images just to give people a little more connection. But this fire, we found a double fire triangle in this moon, and with the
right.
north node connected to this one, this is where we're heading, and we need to face forward. We need to let go of those old stories, and kind of, this is the trailblazer aspect of Aries that's coming up so strongly. And I'm going to share a couple of images, and then we wanted to just take a little peek at the April eclipse next spring.
Yeah.
I think we all need to have that in mind, but I wanted to show you. So this is Pram, and you can see where yours is, and this little right up here. I always forget where some of mine are, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's in so and so. So it's a continuing experience, right? It's very experiential, all of this. It's like finding our connection. And then when our intuition or synchronicity strikes again, and then we're back to re-engaging this energy again. So that's Prime Zeus. And here is Varda. Oh, she's my favorite.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know if I shared this with you before, but I've been calling myself Star Lady for a while, because when I lived in the Virgin Islands, I was doing stargazing with groups under the tropical night sky, and I was Star Lady Kelly. And so then when Varda came along, it's conjunct my South Node.
Perfect. So you're meant to
Yeah.
manifest this in this lifetime, Kelly, for sure.
I guess so. And I really, that Tolkien work is just like, wow. So, and I really, it's helping me tune into, we all have so many aspects of ourselves, and some of the new ones, some we haven't tapped into, want to come forward with this new quantum energy. So I'm tapping back into, like, the Elven era in some ways.
I think
So
that's going to come forward a lot more. That magical fairy ethereal realm, I think, is going to come forward a lot more. And it's beautiful. You really are embodying Vada with, you're such a visionary, Kelly, with these Kuiper Belt objects. So yeah, I think you're really living your mission, your soul mission with this. But I definitely think the whole elven fairy ethereal elemental realm is going to become bigger.
yeah, well, I think Uranus and Taurus suggests that with the elements for sure. And then more of that might be another outcome of the Saturn and Pisces energy as
I was just
well.
thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, let's look at this astounding total eclipse.
It's just, and what's fascinating, Kelly, as I mentioned before we started the recording, is if we take Pluto and the South Node out of the picture, I think all of the planets are concentrated within, is it about 20 degrees in total?
Well, 13 to, it's 13,
right?
so it's like 60 degrees.
Yep.
That would be a sextile.
Yep. And then even if we put Pluto back in, it's like 110 degrees. I mean, it's incredibly concentrated. So, look at your own birth chart, because if you have planets in Pisces, Aries, Taurus, or even the opposite signs, or the signs that are square to that, you are gonna be getting this big time conjunction, squares, oppositions in a major way.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is just a short time before the 20th, 21st of April, when we have that very important.
Yes. 2 weeks later, and we're seeing it really close here, the Jupiter Uranus, and it's a one-time Jupiter Uranus. It could have been, include a retrograde and give us 3 different pings, but no, we get one. And 2 weeks after this eclipse.
makes it
Yeah.
so powerful. And, isn't it interesting that Chiron to the minute is exact with this solar eclipse? So I think we're going to get
Yes.
a whole new understanding of what that's about. And in Chiron, as we know, we call it the wounded healer, and it's where you have a wound, and wherever we have a wound, and we've all got it somewhere, we're meant to turn it into leadership. And with regard to that, I just happened to check Gandhi's chart, Mahatma Gandhi. He had his birth Chiron at 1 degree of Aries on the world axis.
Oh,
So boy, did he turn that whole imperialist suppression in India.
with salt.
Absolutely. So beautiful. But I think of Chiron actually as the true maverick, because Chiron has a very highly elliptical orbit, as you know, Kelly, and orbiting, way beyond Saturn, which is the conventional, the rules, the regulations, the old traditional, towards and beyond, I think even slightly beyond Uranus. And I think of him as the maverick in that he won't even identify with the Uranus rebel group. He certainly, he certainly won't
Or
identify
the
with.
other centaurs. They're the motorcycle gang, Chiron has a whole different origin.
Absolutely, he's singular. He is a singular maverick. And so that sense of singularity, individuality, that's really heightened, and the healing of the I am, the healing of that sense of I don't matter, I don't exist, I don't have a voice, is really good. The healing of all of that is going to be heightened at this total solar eclipse, I think.
This is why we cannot accommodate other people beyond a certain point anymore. We just don't have a lot of wiggle room. We need to be centered in capital S self and very clear, really clear about where we're at. And I just love that exact to the minute. I mean, whoa. And I had something I was thinking. Well, Selassie is in there too.
Yep.
But it's anybody say born in 1974 and going to be having a Chiron return is like, wow, what a whopper.
Absolutely massive.
Yeah.
And I think, the word you used earlier of trailblazing, I think pioneering, I think a deeper, more integrated sense of our unique essence than we have ever had in our lifetime. We'll come forwards with it. And of course, for the US, this is smack across the US from northeast to southwest, crossing the.
I'm in the zone here in Vermont. I'm in the zone. I might not be there, but yeah. Now in Vedic philosophy, there's the old saying, don't go out and go under an eclipse sort of thing. So their take on that is the moon is a really positive energy. The sun is a really positive energy. So you don't have a negative and positive polarity. You have positive, and it's like almost too much to handle.
Oh, that's
so it's just too much energy. So, you're asking for it if you're out watching the eclipses.
But people will be for sure.
They will be for sure. Yeah.
So Kelly, we're sort of coming up to the hour now. Is there anything else you would like to say about this total solar eclipse, or anything else that you've shared today? It's been so rich.
Yes. So, here's what. So, we had this really especially intense Venus retrograde. And right around when Venus went retrograde in late July, so did Chiron at 19 degrees. So we had that Jupiter and Uranus getting as close as they were going to get. And then Jupiter went retrograde. So it's as if we were already tapping into this energy.
Yeah.
So, and this is trailblazing, like the Star Trek motto, to go where no one has gone before.
And we will. I think there's no doubt.
We
absolutely. We're in the tsunami of a love revolution right now, and I think that's what this is about.
And the whole collaborative aspect of it, with by then, there's a Pluto in Aquarius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
So,
squaring, squaring so much of this, I think it's going to be exquisite. He's actually what, in a sextile to Venus.
oh, that's a beauty, isn't it? Yeah.
So again, the love revolution. There we have it astrologically.
Yeah, it's so Venus is so strong. And I believe that I heard this. I need to, review the sources, but because of these waves, galactic waves of light coming in through our whole solar system, all of the planets are exhibiting changes. And I've heard that Venus has gotten brighter.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if that's really true, but I like to think it is. I mean, I makes sense to me.
Wow, because I was talking only yesterday to Nancy Rebecca about these galactic waves of light coming in this month, November. So, boy, is this is this an exciting time to be alive. It's a very challenging time with all that's going on in the world, but it is making us masters of our frequency. It is
And this is where the positive warrior, the spiritual warrior energy comes up. And we can transform the violent militant type to that other kind of spiritual warrior that has honor and moral integrity and stands for what is a true and right and love. So there, that courage that it takes
absolutely. This is why we're
move
here
forward.
to change the repeating pattern of the hamster wheel. We've got to get beyond the hamster wheel, being pioneers, trailblazers, light warriors, and love warriors.
And isn't that the basic choice that we've been confronting? Are we going to shrink in fear, or are we going to expand in love?
Couldn't be clearer, because whatever you focus on expands.
Yes, and that's it. What is that intention? Clarify your intention. And I hadn't also gotten quite clear on that, in the mantra practice I'm doing. There's healing potential, but you need to be clear about your intention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Intention is so important. We're going to live much more intentionally going forward, because we're really going to get this mastery of our thinking and our emotions.
Yeah, and there's that Saturn in Pisces, like, don't be all wishy-washy, don't be leaky,
absolutely.
Like,
Be an avatar almost. Beautiful,
Yes.
Kelly. The sharings are always so rich, and you do so much, phenomenal research and really dig deep to find new information for us to enrich our world. So I'm always so grateful to you. It's been wonderful, and I hope everybody out there enjoys this as much as certainly I have. And I just want to thank
you. It's not the cup of tea for everybody, but please at least take a sip of one or another of the Kuiper Belt objects and see where that takes you.
Yeah, it's a journey. It really is a journey, but you are an unstoppable researcher, Kelly. So, thank you for all that you're doing for the world. So,
and you too, Pam.
So God bless. So bye, everyone. Hope you've loved this as much as I have, and bye for now.